All right, I think we're good. Yep. All right. Awesome. Cool beans. What's going on? Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Will Johnson. My website is uniteamericafirst.com. And yes, we have a lot to talk about tonight. What is going on? What is going on? Why is all this insanity happening? Well, it's happening for obvious reasons, because those that are in control don't want the country to, prosper. But anyways, I have a couple stories that I want to, actually I have quite a few stories, and I probably won't be able to get to all of them, but let's just get into it because I have a lot to share with you tonight. Thank you for joining me on my new hour. I come on at 8 p.m. Central. I hope this works for you because I think a lot of people have really reacted to it. So I want to talk about Adam Schiff. Have y'all heard about Adam Schiff? Oh my goodness, Adam Schiff. Shifty Schiff. Shifty Schiff showed up in the Twitter dump. And the liberal media, crickets. Nothing. They say nothing about it. But if it was the other way around, oh my goodness, they would be drilling it in. And Adam Schiff was caught. And I'm going to share what Adam Schiff has done for those of you that don't know. But before we get to that, I want to talk about what the Republicans are doing right now. As of, well, I guess at 7 o'clock, they all started coming back, and they're going to do another vote. I was looking, I haven't seen anything as of yet, but maybe you're watching it. Maybe you can let me know, and let me know if they did vote or if they didn't vote. I'm assuming that they didn't get the votes that McCarthy was looking for. But anyways, sometimes McCarthy, I don't like, just be straightforward. I've called him sometimes McCarthy for the longest because McCarthy, sometimes he wants to do the right thing and sometimes he supports the Democrats. I mean, it is what it is. But with that said, I want to share something with you. You even have Adam Kissinger. Adam Kissinger, of all people, he goes on the Communist News Network and he's talking about that he needs to step aside. He says McCarthy needs to step aside. The establishment McCarthy from the establishment Adam Kissinger says that he needs to step aside. Let me just share some of it with you. Listen to what he says here, because he goes on the Communist News Network and he says this about McCarthy. It's really bizarre. I got so much to share with you. Listen.
Get this. No matter who does, it means that group that you're talking about won. They achieved what they wanted. So do you think it's better for him to step aside and move on and have it be someone else? Or should he just sit here and just force this issue vote after vote after vote as long as it takes?
And see, now Adam Kissinger is getting ready to go into the, multiple reasons why he doesn't like McCarthy.
Well, I think Kevin should step aside. I mean, I've been critical of him ever since, frankly, after January 6th, his return to Mar-a-Lago, his continuing to try to assuage this caucus. So I think it would be good for the country if he stepped aside.
So you have Adam Kissinger right there saying that he wants McCarthy to step aside. But you know what? The Democrats, they're loving this right now. Even Adam Kissinger, he's liking this right now, too. He's liking that this is happening with the Republican Party, that they're in like such disarray, that they can't make a decision on what they're wanting to do. Right. So you have McCarthy. He was walking around in the halls, and this guy, Sanjay, I think that's his name. He's asked McCarthy a question about the votes for tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, 1 hour ago. Listen to what he says.
I just caught up with Kevin McCarthy just moments ago, and he indicated a deal is not yet within reach, but progress is being made.
Guys, stop at the threshold. I think it's probably best let people work through some more. I don't think voting tonight does any difference. I think voting in the future will.
Do you have a deal with those guys right now?
No, not yet, but a lot of progress.
Does that mean no vote tonight?
I don't think voting tonight is productive. I think let people work a little more.
You know what? So he says, I don't think there's going to be a vote tonight based on some of the stuff that they were saying. And you know what? This is the one thing that I believe that they're saying behind closed doors that they're not saying out in the public. And the reason why, I don't know why they're not saying this. But the one thing is, I think they're saying that we don't care about you giving us what we're asking for, other than the one thing that they're not saying, and that is for you to step down, McCarthy. They want McCarthy to come out and publicly say that he's going to step down. So then all the rest of them, the 202 that's been voting for McCarthy, will say, okay, McCarthy said that he's going to step down. So then in that case, we'll all go ahead and select somebody else. For some reason, they're not saying that. Now, I could be wrong. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Do you think that's what's going on? Maybe someone has heard that. But I'm telling you, the way I look at it, the way I see it is that they're asking McCarthy, no, we want you to just step down. Regardless of you saying that the same policies that we want to support, regardless of all of that, we want you to step down. So then the 202 will select somebody else. I think at this point, they're willing to go for any other Republican other than McCarthy at this point, because McCarthy has showed himself multiple times. Now, y'all remember, I talk about Dan Crenshaw. Dan Crenshaw, he's straight up rhino. Well, Dan Crenshaw is calling these 18 or 20 Republicans that are going against McCarthy, he's calling them terrorists. Dan Crenshaw. So how many of y'all like Dan Crenshaw? Dan Crenshaw is a straight up rhino. He's been a straight up rhino. And Dan Crenshaw is calling these Republicans that's standing up against the establishment, he's calling them terrorists. This is happening. Listen, Tucker's even talking about it. Because Dan Crenshaw called into some guy's radio show and he actually called them basically terrorists. You can't make it up.
Well, anyone doesn't like a terrorist. Watch.
Those of us are saying, like, look, you pushed us into this corner, so now we're saying we won't vote for anyone but McCarthy. That's why we're saying it, because we cannot let the terrorists win.
Oh, they're terrorists now. It's hard not to see the connection, because over the past few years, pretty much every part of the war on terror has been turned against the domestic political enemies of the neocons. So now they're just coming out and telling you what they told you about Iraq. Either you're with us or you're against us. You're on the side of light or darkness. You're good or evil. Dan Crenshaw went all the way, as neocons always do. He proceeded to go to CNN to call his political opponents enemies of the state. Looking for a little Soviet-style politics? Watch this.
Now, I played this. I just want to play it one more time because Tucker's playing it. He played it tonight. And I just want to play this for y'all. And I want y'all to listen to what Tucker says after this. Because Dan Crenshaw is straight up a rhino. He's a Democrat in disguise. That's what he is. Exactly what he is. Listen.
This handful of members is very clearly looking for notoriety over principle. That's what it is. And anyone who suggests differently is in some kind of make-believe fantasy reality. But if you're a narcissist and you believe that your opinion is so much more important than everyone else's, then you'll keep going. And you'll threaten to tear down the team for the benefit of the Democrats, just because of your own sense of self-importance. That's exactly what's happening here. We will not vote for anyone else but McCarthy. These people think they're stubborn, we're more stubborn. They think they're not going to get the committees they want. Well, obviously they won't, but it's going to be so much worse than that. They are enemies now.
So you may like Kevin McCarthy or not. Both are allowed. But no matter how you feel, you have to acknowledge, if you're being honest, that people who don't like Kevin McCarthy have a reason for that. They have real concerns, real issues. But you'll notice that Dan Crenshaw didn't address any of those, none of them. Instead, he impugned their motives, their character, their intelligence, their moral standing. They're narcissists. In fact, and we're quoting, they are enemies now.
They're enemies now. So you have a Republican, a so-called Republican, calling other Republicans enemy because the Republicans are standing up against the establishment. I guess in that case, maybe Dan Crenshaw is correct. You have Republicans standing up against the establishment, so I guess they would be considered the enemy. Right? I guess that would be the case, because Dan Crenshaw, he's through and through establishment. But if you think I'm wrong, leave me a comment. Let me know. What do you think? Do you think I'm wrong? I mean, and now there's a lot of Republicans are saying, well, you know what? They just need to, do this. This has become the motto of the Republican Party. You know what? Just give in. Just give in. Let's just move along. Let's just give in, move along. Let's just, we have to do better next time. We have to do better next time. And they've said this with multiple things. We just need to do better next time. We saw what happened. Let's just let it go. We'll just do better next time. There's been a lot of that. And that's exactly what's happening here. Now, there's nothing wrong with them having a valid debate about what's happening. And you have these Republicans, they don't want to do the same quid pro quo. They don't want to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. They actually standing on the hill, wanting to actually make actual change. Now, some people don't like it, and you have every right not to like it. Some people think McCarthy is through and through. He's the guy, and that's fine. That's the way it's supposed to be. I personally don't. And some people got upset with me because I said, well, it looked like McCarthy's actually going to do this. He's going to pull this through. He probably still will. I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. But let me get on to another hot topic for tonight. The hot topic, actually, this topic personally is a little bit hotter than them trying to select the Speaker of the House, because them going through that doesn't stop the country from going, right? Them going through that. And it is important. I'm not downgrading at all. I wouldn't talk about it. But you know what's personally I think is even more pressing than them trying to select the Speaker of the House? The federal government actually censoring the American people. And as I talked about in my opening, where Adam Schiff he's been addressed in these Twitter files, where he actually contacted Twitter to censor the American people. There's the Twitter files. So I'm wondering, had Adam Schiff at any point, when Elon Musk started releasing these Twitter documents, at any point did he have any concern? Or is he going to play stupid and act like he didn't know that someone from within inside of his camp actually sent messages to Twitter trying to remove journalists from Twitter? Now, Twitter said no. They said, no, we're not going to, because apparently the people that he was trying to censor didn't actually violate any of the Twitter community woke guidelines. But eventually they caved in. Eventually they gave Adam Schiff what he was asking for and suspended these journalists. You have the actual federal government, and all this information is coming out, and the left says nothing. They're like completely quiet about it. If this was the other way around, if Elon Musk started suppressing leftist journalists on Twitter, and then you had Republicans sending emails to Twitter saying, suspend this communist news network commentator, suppress the one from MSDNC, from all these other leftist media outlets, suppress their reach. They would go ballistic. They would say, oh my goodness, how dare you do this? The federal government intervening with big tech companies to censor the American people. How dare you do this? But in this case, because they were doing it to conservative Christians, it's perfectly fine. They look the other way. There's nothing to see here. Come on. Really? And the whole notion, and this goes out the water, where they constantly say that, well, these are private companies. They can censor and block whoever it is they want to. When you had the federal government get involved, that went out the window. I don't care. I've talked to constitutionalist Republicans in the past and said, well, they are private companies. Well, it's gone out the window when you have the federal government, along with the FBI, directly contacting the big tech companies, censoring you and I for telling the truth. It's one thing if we were out there causing harm and we were deliberately saying that you need to go do XYZ to somebody. That would be a different story, right? But you're talking about people talking about the truth, and they were censoring people. They didn't like Adam Schiff. Now listen to this. Listen to this. Adam Schiff got caught red-handed. He should be removed immediately, because he straight up violated the U.S. Constitution. He should be removed immediately. There shouldn't even be a discussion.
General question, and it's more of a rhetorical question, Ash. Who the heck does Adam Schiff think he is that he thinks this is appropriate for a member of the government, the federal government, the one that has to follow that little document called the Constitution, to ban a member of the free press?
Well, we do want to go to this. Let's look at this thread. It says even Twitter declined to honor Schiff's request at the time, noting responses to Schiff's office repeatedly saying, we don't do this, even though the account in question was still later suspended. Well, Elon Musk's comments on the new revelations, remarking how, quote, U.S. government agency demanded suspensions of 250,000 accounts, including journalists and Canadian officials. I really just don't see how this was even allowed. I mean, it is amazing. These are things that you think, oh, this is never going to happen. And then Elon Musk takes over. And now everything's coming to light.
I think because we have a healthy respect for the Constitution, and we know that even if topic X doesn't help us, we understand there's a bigger issue at play, and it is the Republic. It is the United States of America, and it is the rules that we have in place to govern said Republic. And those rules, the way we operate our country, all evolves from the Constitution. Joe, we have you back in here. Does the left not comprehend that selective enforcement of the freedom of the press is really no freedom at all?
Well, they comprehend it clearly, but they know they can take advantage of the fact that the media, to a certain extent, and Twitter was there to serve at the pleasure of their party, right? And no member of Congress, by the way, guys, and I think we know this, is more interested in control through the media than Adam Schiff of California, who reportedly leaks more than a submarine screen door, right? So, again, we get time and again with the exposing that shadow banning does exist, showing that the FBI did work with Twitter to suppress certain stories. And now, obviously, we're seeing this with Adam Schiff. Again, the receipts are there. But again, also, everybody in the media outside of this network and a handful others that aren't considered major networks or publications are covering this. Everybody else, it's silence of the lambs, guys.
Yeah, silence of the lambs. They say nothing. And you know that goes right along with I'm constantly saying demons will protect demons. That's the reason why they don't say anything. They're going to protect Adam Schiff as much as possible. And again, if this was the roles were reversed and this was happening to Republicans, and if Republicans were doing this to leftists, liberal Democrats, it would be a completely different story. This would be the biggest story in all of the liberal media outlets, that a representative, a congressman, actually went to the tech companies to censor journalists, straight up censor journalists, and they say nothing, like it's nothing. Now listen to Tucker. This is kind of long, but I want y'all to listen to this one because the gentleman that's been releasing these documents, he goes on with Tucker and he's actually talking about all of this, because the whole thing was with Russia and now Adam Schiff, with the documents. This is a absolutely horrifying situation that the federal government was doing this to you and I. And some people don't even care. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who don't even care. You know what? I've had someone tell me, well, maybe you shouldn't be a Republican. If you're concerned about them censoring you, maybe you shouldn't be a Republican. Maybe you should be a Democrat. They think that way. Listen to this.
You may have believed it or not, but intel agencies in this country must have known at the time that it was not true. They would know, but they said nothing. And they said nothing because blaming Russia turned out to be a very useful political tool. In fact, before long, it became the default response to every perceived disaster in Washington. Hillary lost. Why Russia? Donald Trump can't be president. Why Russia? Hunter Biden's laptop is here. Russian. Audit aid to Ukraine? Can't. Russia. And so on and so on. So over time, probably inevitably, the inflated threat of Russia became a pretext for everything bad, including censorship in this country. It's Russian disinformation. Shut it down. Thanks to new reporting from Matt Taibbi, who has spent weeks sifting through previously secret Twitter files, we know the federal government's intelligence and law enforcement agencies enthusiastically joined the effort to censor the political speech of American citizens illegally. It was a sophisticated effort. At one point, for example, the State Department released a report falsely claiming that thousands of Twitter accounts were controlled by foreign governments. Russia! And then unnamed sources in the intel world leaked scary headlines about Russian disinformation running rampant on Twitter. Twitter deleted data potentially crucial to the Russia probes, screamed Politico, ever obedient to the intel agencies. And then the Washington Post published a piece threatening to increase regulation of Twitter's advertising because, of course, Russia. So it was a manufactured panic about Russia. But on the basis of that manufactured panic, lawmakers in Washington demanded more censorship.
The issue is not that the companies before us today are taking too many posts down. The issue is that they're leaving too many dangerous posts up. In fact, they're amplifying harmful content so that it spreads like wildfire and torches our democracy.
Now, let me stop it there. There's more to this. Y'all heard what he just said. And see, there's been the ongoing thing with the Democrats when it comes to all this information coming out about the federal government reaching out to the big tech companies to censor the American people. It's not the fact that the people were saying stuff that they don't like. They were saying it, right? Well, that has a lot to do with it. But they were upset because the tech companies were not censoring the American people even more. You remember the lady that was working at Facebook? She was the whistleblower, the so-called whistleblower. She went on to 60 Minutes and she was talking on 60 Minutes how Facebook basically her job came to an end. So I guess she decided to speak out. Anyway, she spoke out, was saying that she was upset with Facebook because Facebook would not allow her to censor conservatives even more. And to come to find out, Facebook believes, this is what's been reported, that a lot of people go on to Facebook and conservatives are more interesting than those leftists are. Because people don't really care for wokeism. They really don't want to hear about it. So it just so happened to be that conservatives are more interesting than leftists are. More interesting. And she got upset. And she wanted to censor conservatives even more. And then she went to Congress and she kind of changed the story up a little bit. She said it was about protecting children when she went before Congress. When she was on 60 Minutes, she wasn't talking about children. When she went before Congress, she was talking about children. And it's all because they want to censor more. That's the reason why they're not in an uproar about this, because conservatives are not being censored enough, according to the left.
Oh, too much speaking. Your opinions are a threat to our, quote, democracy. That would be sitting United States Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts. But almost nobody said anything because Russia. And so it accelerated. Not long after that tape was shot, in November of 2020, Congressman Adam Shiff of California, who was then the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, demanded that Twitter censor any discussion about the House Intelligence Committee. Quote, suppress any and all search results about committee staff, a Shiff aide demanded of Twitter. Shiff was particularly furious that a journalist called Paul Sperry had reported on Schiff's connection to the CIA whistleblower behind Donald Trump's impeachment. So Shiff demanded that Twitter censor Sperry. Quote, suspend the many accounts, including Paul Sperry, commanded Schiff's office. This is illegal. It's openly unconstitutional. Government officials cannot suppress speech. That's the Bill of Rights. And even at Twitter, executives seem to understand that. No, this isn't feasible. We don't do this, replied one Twitter executive. But ultimately, however, they caved. In time, in fact, Paul Sperry was censored by Twitter, along with many thousands of others. Twitter had effectively become a government propaganda outlet. How that happened and the effect that it had on American electoral politics is one of the most important stories of our time. And as we said, we know about it because of Matt Taibbi, who has been at the center of it. He joins us tonight. Matt, thanks so much for coming on. So I would just offer to our audience your extensive reporting on this, which is on Twitter and on your Substack. But to summarize, having looked at these documents for weeks now, how deep was the penetration of Twitter by U.S. law enforcement and intel agencies?
I think we can say pretty conclusively after looking at tens of thousands of emails over the course of these weeks that the government was in the censorship business in a huge way. That's, I think, provable now. And not just one agency, really every conceivable wing of the enforcement agencies of the U.S. government were in some way or another sending moderation requests to Twitter, and in many cases those requests were being fulfilled, and they were coming from everywhere, from every place from the NSA to the HHS to FBI, DHS, and even what they call other government agencies, which I think is code for the CIA. So we have reports from all over, from states, from police departments, everywhere.
This is eye-opening. Well, I mean, it is eye-opening, but we're not surprised, right? A lot of us go, well, we already knew this. We already know this. This is, I mean, you know, I keep looking at this information, and it's almost to the point to where, like, you know what, this is just the way things are now. And there's a lot of people going that route. This is just the way things are. They're going to continue censoring conservatives. I mean, if you're on whatever platform you're on, except for Rumble right now, they're doing it right now. They're doing it right now. You're seeing it happen right now. You're seeing the censorship still take place. And I'm just kind of curious, you know, because I mentioned this before, is Will Johnson's name on the list of people that they want to censor from people from hearing anything that they have to say. Now, I've been talking about this stuff. I've been talking about the censorship for the longest. And now all of it's coming out, and everything that I was saying about it was true. Not just me, not just you, but multiple people was talking about the censorship. And but the FBI, the CIA, Adam Schiff. So if it's Adam Schiff, you know there's probably other predominant Democrats that did the same thing. Adam Schiff has his hand, and he was over the intelligence committee. So if he's over the intelligence committee, you know he has direct access to the FBI. So he had to have known that the FBI was doing this with Twitter. That's probably where he got the idea or felt emboldened to reach out to Twitter directly and have them suppress or suspend a journalist.
So that's prima facie illegal. It's unconstitutional. Government cannot censor political speech. It could not be clearer. Our assumption is that this was made possible because of hysteria about Russian penetration of our politics. Is that your read of it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the thread that I put out yesterday traces the history of what happened, particularly in the fall of 2017. Twitter somewhat naively thought that they would not be sucked into the Russiagate phenomenon. They really thought this was going to be Facebook's problem alone. But when it started to become politically very difficult for them, and people like the ranking Democrat on the Senate Intel Committee, Mark Warner, the senator of Virginia, put pressure on them. There was an email that talked about how he was pressuring them to, quote, keep producing material for them. Ultimately, Twitter ended up caving, and by the end of the year, they had an internal guidance, which I think is very significant, where they said publicly, we will only remove content at our sole discretion. Privately, we will remove content, any content that's identified by the United States intelligence community as a foreign state actor conducting cyber operations. So if the intel community says we take it down, we're going to take it down.
And of course, a lot of the people who were censored were not foreign state actors. In at least one case that you documented, this was a journalist. And I have to ask, there are a lot of different nonprofit organizations that purport to defend free speech on behalf of journalists. I won't even bother to name them, but there are a lot of them. Have any of them weighed in on this and raised holy hell?
No, and that's been a profound disappointment. You know, for me personally, I gave to the ACLU for years. I'm one of those sort of dyed-in-the-wool liberals and grew up that way. I'm deeply disappointed. I think a lot of people who are sort of politically on that side of the aisle are missing the boat on this. They don't understand the gravity of the situation. They're thinking about this in partisan terms. It's not a partisan story. This is a story about the architecture of the intelligence community and law enforcement getting its hands on speech and on the ability of people to communicate with one another through platforms like Twitter and Facebook. And they're doing this in a very profound way, much more serious than I thought it was at the beginning of this story.
And he straight up said that he was a liberal. He's a liberal. And you know what? That's what it takes a lot of times. It takes liberals to actually be presented with this hardcore truth, hardcore facts. And, you know, for the most part, because a lot of liberals, sometimes they're presented with hardcore truth, hardcore facts, and they still reject it. But when he started seeing this information himself, being a liberal, and he started posting it, you know that he's getting all the attacks. You know they're threatening him. I've seen multiple times on Twitter where they're, you know, saying stuff about him, and I don't even know him. It's like me going on Twitter saying something about him, and I don't even know him, and just trying to discredit him. They've been doing that. So that happening to him, and all he's doing is sharing what the Twitter files are saying. I would be hard pressed to believe that he's spending it day in and day out making up the Twitter files, just writing them out, just trying to bring them up, just trying to say, you know, This is what they said. This is what Adam Schiff said. This is what they said. Do you think Adam Schiff should automatically be removed? That's a question. Leave me the comment. Leave me the comment. And I kind of glance over there when I have an opportunity, but leave me a comment. Do you think Adam Schiff should automatically have to resign? Personally, I think so. And I'm just kind of curious. What about all of these other politicians, or who else was involved? And Elon Musk said more to come. Which brings me to another point that I mentioned before. How come the FBI hasn't raided Twitter yet? Has anyone else brought that up? Am I the only one saying that? Has the FBI, has it even run across their mind about raiding Twitter? The reason why I say that is because if Elon Musk is releasing these documents that's implicating the FBI and implicating people like Adam Schiff, would it not become? I'm surprised that the FBI is not saying that this is like a security breach, right? I mean, would it not be? Leave me a comment. I mean, I'm truly asking a legit question here. And I've been thinking, I'm like, why aren't they raiding them? Because they could raid them and say, okay, you know what? We need to say this is an active investigation. We need to shut this down. We need to stop it before they release something that can be really damaging to the Bureau, really damaging to the Democrat Party. They don't care about the Republican Party, but this could be really damaging. Could really be damaging. Because there's probably something in there that is so explosive. This Adam Schiff is extremely explosive. But because the liberal media doesn't say anything about it, people don't even know what is happening. People don't even know aware that it's taking place. And the people that are on the left that's getting wind of it, they're talking about President Trump's tax returns. Or they want to deflect and talk about, now they want to talk about the border because Biden said he's going to go down to the border. I think he said he's going to go down to the border tomorrow. Well, see, it's after the midterm, so why not? They're getting ready to go into 2024. So now they're saying you need to take the opportunity to go down there. And one of the reporters asked Joe Biden, when you go down to the border, what do you expect to see? He says peace and safety. That's what he expects to see, peace and safety. So they're probably going to end up taking him to a location where everything is in order. Everything is under control. No one is actually crossing over. It's probably where he's going to go. Not like the Mayorkas. Mayorkas went down there, and Mayorkas he's a complete idiot. Listen to what Karine Jean-Pierre said about when Peter Doocy was asking Karine Jean-Pierre about the Biden regime and all of the lies that the Biden regime has been telling. And all this is connected with, personally, with the FBI, with the Twitter files, with all of this corruption that's taking place. But listen to this.
And another topic with the new Republican majority coming in, the House Oversight Committee is laying out their new investigations, and they claim to have evidence that Joe Biden lied to the American people about his involvement in his family's business schemes. Did he?
So look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. House Republicans promised that fighting inflation during the midterms was going to be their number one priority. That's what they said was important to them, and that's what they said that they wanted to do. But instead, what they're doing is wanting to do an investigation on the president and his family. That is their focus. They don't want to focus on the American people and their family. They want to focus on political division. They want to focus on something that the American people do not want to see, as we saw from the midterm elections. Look, I'm not going to get into the specifics of any of the oversight here. We have a White House counsel that's going to my colleagues who are going to deal with this, so I will point you to them.
So let's get this straight. She's saying that the Republicans said that they want to work on the economy, to work on the inflation, but now they wanted to just deflect and do everything else but work for the American people. And the Democrats are real good about saying that they're here for the American people. We want to do for the American people. Well, the past 2 years, actually the past 6 years, the Democrats have done nothing for the American people. You remember when President Trump was in office, they impeached President Trump twice in the House. They weren't doing nothing. President Trump didn't do anything wrong. They impeached him twice in the House. It failed twice in the Senate. And then they were trying to figure out if they can impeach him a third time after it was all said and done. And now they can't impeach him a third time, so they're trying to figure out how that they can put him in jail. They're still going after President Trump. But the whole idea that she had the nerve, the audacity to sit there and say that the Republicans are trying to do a political stunt and they're deflecting.
Russia.
What was all that about? What was all that about? She's literally blaming them for what they have been doing for the longest. For the longest. Now listen to this one. This one here, this one's about the southern border. And she literally says that Biden did historical things to protect the southern border. You can't make it up.
Roughly 7,000 migrants crossing every day illegally. Does the White House believe the border is secure?
Look, I've told you what we have done, what we have made this a priority to make sure.
Are they working?
To make sure that there's border security measures. Look, here's the thing, Peter. The president has taken historic actions, right, that no other president has been able to do. When you think.
You mean doing nothing? Opening the border, 7,000 people a day coming across the southern border? I would agree. That's probably historic, right? That's never, ever happened. What Biden is doing, what the Biden regime and the Democrats are doing to our southern border. That's true. But it's not a positive thing. See, they're trying to play it off like everything that they've done to the southern border is a positive thing. Now, she always adds this little twist to it. Listen to what she says, because she adds this little twist to it, trying to say that, the southern border, the disinformation.
That no other president has been able to do. When you think about the 23,000 agents that we have been able to put out there to deal with the issue that we're seeing at the border. And that is something that he did without a lot of Republican support. Right? Make sure that we are dealing with a real issue. When you think about the smugglers, really putting a plan in place that we deal with the smugglers, right? And we have to be very careful here, Peter, on how we talk about this, because.
Now, you hear this? Now, listen to this. We have to be really careful, Peter, how we talk about this. Like, we don't want to put the truth out there, because then if we put the truth out there, then it will look bad. That's literally what she's saying. We have to be careful how we talk about this. Really. The truth is the truth, and they don't want to talk about it. Now, here comes the twist. Listen.
We have to be very careful here, Peter, on how we talk about this, because if we talk about it in a way that is misinformation, then it helps the smugglers. And so these are the issues that the president has taken incredibly seriously.
So what misinformation is Peter Doocy saying? Because everything he just said was true. The people are coming across the border in an alarming rate. So what part is not true? What part is disinformation? They say this, they just mouth it off, but they don't ever give anybody any, no clarification. They don't give examples. What exactly is the disinformation that she's referring to? Someone please let me know. What disinformation is she referring to? Right? Now, we know that the border is open because multiple people are coming across, and Mayorkas went down and he said, don't send the people back. That came out of his mouth. And this is causing a problem. Have y'all seen what's happening in El Paso? There's more illegals in El Paso than there are American citizens, from what I can tell. It's redonkulous. Listen to what she says here about law and order. And she literally says that there's...
We do believe in the rule of law. I know some of you had something to say about that just a couple of weeks ago, but we do believe in the rule of law, and we will respect it, and we will honor that here from this administration. So, look, you've heard.
So when did they start supporting the rule of law? Again, that's another valid question. See, that's why they probably would never let me into the press conference, especially with someone like her. They'll never let me in there, because I'm gonna ask the question. Can you tell us, when did y'all start supporting the rule of law? Because y'all didn't support the rule of law in the summer of love. Y'all didn't support it then. When you look at the southern border right now with the influx of people coming in, and then y'all got upset with Governor Abbott because he was stopping people by putting up the barbed wire. You got upset with him because he was wanting the people to adhere to the law, but you're not doing anything to prevent it. You're actually encouraging people to come across the southern border. You're encouraging people to make the trek with little children. Can you please explain to me? And then when they come across the border, you want to give them free health care. You want to take members from the Pentagon. You want to take air marshals and send them down there to cater to these people when they've already broken the law. And then you want to give them government assistance. So tell me, when did you respect the rule of law? That's what I want to know. At what point did you start respecting the rule of law? They don't respect the rule of law. And everyone that thinks that they do have been misled. 100%. Now, again, Mayorkas, he's asked multiple times about the southern border. Listen to this one.
Does the extraordinary wave of migration that we are seeing across the southern border, record numbers of apprehensions that CBP is reporting every month, does it have an impact on the agency's ability to detect and stop illegal drugs from entering the country?
No, it doesn't.
You see that? The fentanyl that's coming in the country, and he's saying, no, there's no way that they can stop the drugs from coming in. When President Trump was in office, a lot of it did stop. Now, of course, you can't stop it 100%, but they're not even doing anything to prevent it. Right? They're not even doing anything to prevent it. The only reason why some of the drugs are getting caught because of the Border Patrol and the police officers on the southern border are catching them. They're apprehending them. That's the only reason. But the federal government, because the influx of people coming across the border is becoming a distraction, and the drug dealers, this is what happens. They send a group of people, about 75, 100 people, to one location. And then what happens, because of the Biden regime, they send all of the Border Patrol to that one location. So all of the other locations that they're already monitoring, but they can't monitor the entire thing, the drugs are getting trafficked through the other locations while they're being distracted by the countless people that are coming across the border.
Do you think it's a pipe dream to see comprehensive harm reduction policies with widespread support across the country?
I don't, Nick. I think it's very important to keep at the harm reduction effort to deal with the treatment side of the equation. But we here in the Department of Homeland Security address the law enforcement element of it.
So instead of working on stopping the drugs, the fentanyl from coming in the country, he wants to work on treatment. I think the first thing to do is to stop the drugs. Why won't he do that? Why won't he do that? I don't understand. How did we get here? How did we get here? I truly don't understand. I truly don't understand. How did we get here? All right, I have one more I want to share with you on this with Karine Jean-Pierre. This is the last one of her, I think. Now, you remember when President Trump was in office, the gas prices were, reasonable. They were extremely reasonable. Ever since Joe Brandon went in and he stopped the XL pipeline, the gas prices went through the roof. Well, a year ago from now, they were $2.39 a gallon, and they brought it down, but it's still higher than it was, then. A year ago. Listen to her. She straight up lies, and someone in the press corps actually calls her out on it. Well, they don't say that she's lying, but they basically call her out.
I want to make note here, because this is important. We've made significant progress in lowering the prices, gas prices specifically. Prices are down nearly $2 per gallon and are lower today than they were 1 year ago today, this very day. So we've seen a slight increase, yes, over the past week due to cold weather that shut down some refineries, but those refineries are coming back online, as some of you have reported, and President will continue to do everything he can to keep lowering costs for American families. That is a priority that you hear from him anytime he talks about the economy and how he wants to continue to lower costs for Americans.
Once these refineries come back online, do you expect the gas prices to come back down? And the price of gas when the president came into office was $2.39 a gallon.
I know, but I'm talking about 1 year ago, and that was 1 year ago was not when he came into office, right?
You hear that? He said he said when President Trump was, left office, gas was $2.39, and she could. Well, I'm talking about a year ago. That of course he wasn't there a year ago. Gas prices are still high, and I want to ask the question. So if the Biden regime is bringing the gas prices down, Why is Putin allowing them to do that? If it was because of Putin made the gas prices go up. Can I ask that question? It's a valid question, right? All right, now I'm getting ready to get into some topics, of course, that I can't talk about here on the socialist media platforms. So for those of you that want to join me and listen to some of this other hot topic stuff, please join me on my Rumble channel. You can see it right there. For everyone who's not going to come, join me on Rumble, thank you so much for tuning in on the other platforms. I really do appreciate you for tuning in. And if you would, please hit the share button for me. Hit the like button on YouTube. Hit the love button on Facebook. I really do appreciate it. It really makes a difference. Hit the share button. Because that's one of the best ways you can support me, other than if you do a super chat or if you do a Rumble rant or if you do the stars on Facebook. Sharing the video really does help a lot. The censorship is still taking place. I'm seeing it firsthand. It's affecting me. It truly is. And a lot of people want me to continue to do what I'm doing, but I can't do it without your help. I constantly have to, bring that up. But I know God is in control, and I'm not going to give up. I have to keep pushing forward. They're kicking me down. I mean, they truly are. I'm not gonna lie to you. They are truly kicking me down. And there's things that are really happening on my side of the world that I'm not going to go into detail, because they're probably happy that they're doing it to me, and they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Someone is deliberately doing this to me, and what it is, I'm not going to get in complete detail, but they know what they're doing, and they're happy about it. So I'm not going to stop. God is with me. I'm going to continue to do the fight, get in the fight, engage in the fight, and do what's right. So if you want to join me for the rest of the information, like I'm telling you, please go over to my Rumble. I will see you over there. Get lively. We're going to get lively with it.